everyone. We're going to start our new Read Aloud book for the fourth quarter. It's called The BFG by Roald Dahl. Illustrations by Quentin Blake. He is the one who illustrated all of our other Roald Dahl books. And I'm going to read the back of the book first. It says, "Captured by a giant. The BFG is no ordinary bone-crunching giant. He is far too nice and jumbly. It's lucky for Sophie that he is. Had she been carried off in the middle of the night by the blood bottler, the flesh lump eater, the bone cruncher, or any of the other giants rather than the BFG, she would have soon become breakfast. When Sophie hears that they are flush blunking off to England to swallop a few nice little childers, she decides she must stop them once and for all, and the BFG is going to help her." Boy, that sounds interesting, doesn't it? The BFG by Roald Dahl. Illustrations by Quentin Blake. Notice the picture right here? The table of contents. Quite a lot of chapters. The characters in this book are humans, the Queen of England, Mary, the Queen's maid, Mr. Tibbs, the palace butler, the head of the army, the head of the Air Force, and of course Sophie, an orphan. The giants in this book are the flesh lump eater, the bone cruncher, the man hugger, the child chewer, the meat dripper, the gizzled gulper, the maid masher, the blood bottler, the butcher boy, and of course, the BFG. Chapter 1, The Witching Hour. Sophie couldn't sleep. A brilliant moonbeam was slanting through a gap in the curtains. It was shining right onto her pillow. The other children in the dormitory had been asleep for hours. Sophie closed her eyes and lay quite still. She tried very hard to doze off. It was no good. The moonbeam was like a silver blade slicing through the room onto her face. The house was absolutely silent. No voices came up from downstairs. There were no footsteps on the floor above either. The window behind the curtain was wide open, but nobody was walking on the pavement outside. No cars went by on the street. Not the tiniest sound could be heard anywhere. Sophie had never known such silence. Perhaps, she told herself, this was what they called the witching hour. The witching hour, somebody had once whispered to her, was a special moment in the middle of the night when every child and every grown-up was in a deep, deep, deep sleep, and all the other dark things came out from hiding and had the world to themselves. The moonbeam was brighter than ever on Sophie's pillow. She decided to get out of bed and close the gap in the curtains. You got punished if you were caught out of bed after lights out. Even if you had to go to the lavatory, that was just not accepted as an excuse, and they punished you just the same. But there was no one about now. Sophie was sure of that. She reached out for her glasses that lay on the chair beside her bed. They had steel rims and very thick lenses, and she could hardly see a thing without them. She put them on, then she slipped out of bed and tiptoed over to the window. When she reached the curtains, Sophie hesitated. Look at that picture of Sophie again. You see her glasses on the nightstand next to her. She longed to duck underneath them and lean out of the window to see what the world looked like now that the witching hour was at hand. She listened again. Everything, everywhere, it was deathly still. The longing to look out became so strong she couldn't resist it. Quickly, she ducked under the curtains and leaned out the window. In the silvery moonlight, the village street she knew so well seemed completely different. The houses looked bent and crooked, like houses in a fairy tale. Everything was pale and ghostly and milky white. Across the street she could see Mrs. Rance's shop, where you bought buttons and wool and bits of elastic. It didn't look real. There was something dim and misty about that, too. Sophie allowed her eyes to travel further and further down the street. Suddenly she froze. There was something coming up the street on the opposite side. It was something black, something tall and black, something very tall and very black and very thin. That is the end of Chapter 1. The next installment will be Chapter 2. Who? See you next time. Thanks for listening.